The ground beneath her feet began to shift, and the golden bark of the tree spread across her skin once more. This time, she did not resist. She embraced the transformation, feeling the power of the forest flow through her. Her body began to change. Her legs became roots to the ground. Her arms stretched out like branches, and her hair turned into long, flowing veins. She could feel the life of the forest within her, the energy of the tree and the spirits. In a quiet village on the edge of a dense forest, there lived a maiden named Ifunanya. She was known for her beauty, kindness, and a voice that could silence even the birds. Ifunanya was loved by many, but she was closest to nature. She would often wander into the forest to talk to the trees, sing with the birds, and listen to the whispers of the wind. The forest was her sanctuary, and the trees were her friends. She was certain that everything in the forest spoke to her, though others called her crazy. The villagers were careful of the forest. They believed it was haunted by ancient spirits, spirits that were neither good nor evil, but dangerous when angered. Legends spoke of the curse that lay deep within the heart of the forest, a curse that could turn humans into trees if they disrespected the spirits. But Ifunanya felt no fear. She respected the forest, and in return, it shattered her. One day, as she ventured deep into the forest than ever before, she came across a tree unlike any she had seen before. It stood tall and proud, its bark glittering like gold, with leaves as silver as moonlight. The entrance by its beauty, she approached it and placed her hand on its trunk. The tree trembled under her touch, and for a moment it seemed to breathe. Ifunanya, a deep voice rumbled through the air, startling her. She pulled her hand back, looking around to see where the voice had come from, but there was no one around. Ifunanya, the voice repeated, and she realized it was coming from the tree itself. Yes, she whispered, her heart racing. You have been chosen, the tree said. You have entered a sacred space where few have ventured. You have shown respect to the forest, but now you must prove yourself. You must protect the forest from those who would harm it. Before she could respond, the tree's roots twisted and wrapped around her feet. Panic soiled through her, but the roots were gentle. She couldn't move. The golden bark of the tree began to spread across her skin, creeping up her legs. She screamed, but her voice was drowned out by the wind that howled around the trees. Ifunanya, the tree's voice boomed. You must make a choice, protect the forest or become part of it. As the bark climbed higher, she felt herself growing weaker. She could feel the energy of the forest pulsing through her, and with it, she understood the forest was in danger. Humans were cutting down trees, hunting the animals, and disturbing the balance of nature. Ifunanya had to stop them, but how? I will protect the forest. She fights for breath, her voice barely audible. The roots released her, and the bark stopped spreading. She fell to the ground, exhausted, but unharmed. "Then go," the tree said softly. "But know this, if you fail, the forest will claim you. You will become one of us." Ifunanya stumbled back to the village, shaken by the encounter, but she could not forget the tree's word. She had to protect the forest no matter what. Days passed, and Ifunanya began to notice the sign of destruction creeping close to the village. Woodcutters had started to cut deeper into the forest, their axes echoing through the trees. Hunters were killing more animals than they needed, and the villagers were carelessly tossing their waste into the streams. The forest was crying out in pain, but no one seemed to hear it except Ifunanya. One evening, as she sat by the edge of the forest, she heard the whisper of the trees again. They were calling to her, begging for her help. She knew she had to act, but how could she, a simple woman, stop the destruction of the forest? Determined, she went to the village council and pleaded with them to stop the woodcutters and hunters. She told them of the cause of the spirits in the forest and of her encounter with the golden tree. But the council laughed at her, dismissing her words as the raving of a mad woman. "You spend too much time in the forest," one of the elders said. "It's making you see things that aren't real. The forest is ours to use as we see fit." Ifunanya left the council meeting feeling defeated. She had tried to warn them, but they would not listen. She knew the cause was real, and the forest would not wait much longer. Pain weighed heavily on her heart, but she was not ready to give up. That night, as the villagers were asleep, Ifunanya sneaked into the forest. She went to the golden tree and knelt before it. "Please," she whispered, "show me what to do. I want to protect the forest." But no one will listen to me. The tree remained silent for a moment before it began to glow. A soft light enveloped Ifunanya, and she felt the presence of the spirits around her. "Sometimes," the tree said, "humans must face consequences to understand their action. The forest will give them a warning, but it will be up to you to ensure they heed it." The ground beneath her trembled, and Ifunanya could feel the energy of the forest surging through her. The spirit had given her power, but it came with a cost. She would have to sacrifice part of herself to save the forest. "I accept," she said, her voice firm. The tree's light faded, and Ifunanya felt a strange sensation in her body. Her skin tingled, and her sense became heightened. She could hear the heartbeat of the forest, the whispers of the wind, and the cry of the animal. She had become one with the forest. The next morning, strange things began to happen in the village. The trees near the edge of the forest started to grow faster than usual, their branches reaching out towards the houses. The streams, once clear and calm, became murky and wide. Animals that had once stayed away from the village now roamed freely through the streets. The villagers were terrified. They didn't understand what was happening, but Ifunanya did. The forest was sending them a warning, and she knew it wouldn't stop until they listened. She went to the village square and called for everyone to gather. When they saw her, they were surprised. Her appearance had changed. Her eyes were a deep green, like the leaves of the trees, and her skin had a faint golden glow. "The forest is angry," she said, her voice echoing with power. "It is giving you a chance to make things right. Stop cutting down the trees, stop hunting the animals, and stop poisoning the streams. If you do not, the forest will claim you." Some of the villagers were skeptical, but others were too afraid to ignore our warnings. They knew the forest was powerful, and they had seen its wrath before. For some time, the village was at peace with the forest. The woodcutters stopped their work, the hunters took only what they need, and the villagers cleaned the streams. But it wasn't long before greed and impatience crept back into their hearts. The village needed wood to build their new homes, meat to feed their families, and clean water to survive. Slowly but surely, they began to push the boundaries of the forest once again. Ifunanya could feel the forest anger growing. The trees whispered to her in the night, and the spirit warned her that the time for warning was over. One day, as the woodcutters ventured into the forest to chop down trees, they were met with an unexpected sight. The trees themselves had come to life, their branches twisting and turning to block the path. The men tried to fight back, but the trees were too strong. Roots burst from the ground, trapping them in place, and veins wrapped around their bodies, pulling them towards the forest. The villagers rushed to help the woodcutters, but they too were captured by the trees. The more they fought, the tighter the veins became. Fear spread through the village as the people realized that the forest was claiming their lives. In the midst of the problem, Ifunanya stood at the edge of the forest, her heart heavy with sorrow. She had tried to warn them, but they had not listened. Now it was too late. As the villagers became helpless, the golden tree spoke to her once more. "You have done all you could, Ifunanya," it said, "but now you must make the ultimate sacrifice." She understood what the tree meant. To save the village and the forest, she would have to give up her own life. She would become one with the forest, a gardener spirit that would protect it for all eternity. "I am ready," she whispered. The ground beneath her feet began to shift, and the golden bark of the tree spread across her skin. Once more, this time, she did not resist. She embraced the transformation, feeling the power of the forest flow through her. Her body began to change. Her legs became roots to the ground. Her arms stretched out like branches, and her hair turned into long flowing veins. She could feel the life of the forest within her, the energy of the trees and the spirit. She had become a tree, a gardener of the tree. Years passed, and the village eventually rebuilt itself. The people learned to live in harmony with the forest, respecting its boundaries and taking only what they needed. They told stories of the woman who had turned into a tree, a woman who had sacrificed herself to save both the forest and their village.